It's just after dawn in Athens, and the city is already awake. A rooster crows over the clatter of shutters. In the marketplace, the fishmongers are laying out the catch, and a philosopher is already arguing with a stranger. Down the street, an ordinary man is being reminded that today, by law, he helps run the government. This is Athens at its height, the birthplace of democracy, philosophy, and theater, and of things that would horrify you. You have one day to live here. So what did a day as an ordinary Athenian actually look like? Meet Theron, an ordinary Athenian citizen with a small pottery workshop in the year 430 BC. He wakes at first light on a simple bed in a small mud brick house. There's little reason to stay up once the oil lamps burn out. Breakfast is barely a meal. A piece of bread dipped in a little wine. His house is quietly divided in two. The front rooms and the dining room are the men's world, while the back rooms belong to the women, and a stranger would never see inside them. And moving through all of it, lighting the fire and fetching the water are enslaved people. Even a modest household like Theron's owns at least one. His free day is about to be built on their labor. By mid-morning, Theron heads where nearly every Athenian man is heading, the agora. On the surface, it's a marketplace, stalls of olives, figs, fish, pottery, and luxuries from across the known world. But it's really the beating heart of the city, the shopping center, the news feed, the courthouse, and the town hall, all crammed into one dusty square ringed by temples. Men come to buy, but mostly to talk, to trade rumors, make deals, and argue about everything. On any given morning, a barefoot, snub-nosed man named Socrates might stop Theron and ask him a simple question that ruins his whole afternoon. Almost nothing in an Athenian's day happened far from here. Because the agora isn't only for shopping. Several times a month, a strange thing happens. Public slaves appear carrying a long rope soaked in wet red dye and sweep through the square, herding the loiterers along. Any man left with a red stripe across his cloak is shamed, even fined, because he's late for the most important meeting in the world. Theron climbs a nearby hill, the Pnyx, and joins thousands of ordinary men, potters, farmers, shopkeepers, who, together, are the government. They vote, by a simple show of hands, on taxes, on laws, on whether Athens goes to war. This is democracy in its rawest form. Amateurs running a city in person. And if he isn't voting, Theron might be judging. Athens had no professional judges and no lawyers. Instead, the juries were enormous. 200, 500, sometimes more. Drawn by lot from ordinary citizens, and paid a few coins for the day. If you had a dispute, you stood and argued your own case, watched by a crowd bigger than a small village, while your time drained away through a water clock, a jar with a hole in it. When the water ran out, you stopped talking, guilty or not. A man could help decide his neighbor's fate in the morning and be back selling pots by the afternoon. By early afternoon, the heat is heavy, and Theron does what respectable Athenian men did most days. He goes to exercise, completely naked. The word gymnasium literally means the place of nakedness. Athenians were obsessed with the trained male body. They wrestled, threw the discus, and ran, then scraped the oil, sweat, and dust off their skin with a curved metal blade. But the gymnasium was never only about muscle. It was a club, a school, a place to make friends and enemies, to gossip, and to think. Some of the deepest conversations in human history happened between men catching their breath on its benches. It's worth asking how Theron has time for all this. The answer is uncomfortable. Athens ran on slavery. Tens of thousands of enslaved people, captured in war or bought at market, did the hardest work, farming the land, making the goods, and dying by the thousand in the silver mines that made the city rich. Theron himself works at his little pottery, and plenty of poorer citizens sweated all day just to eat. But the glittering free time, the talking, the voting, the exercising, rested on the shoulders of people who had no freedom at all. The Athenians saw no contradiction in it. It was simply how the world worked. And there is a whole half of Athens we haven't seen, because Theron barely sees it either. While the men own the streets, the agora, and the assembly, the citizen women live largely indoors. A respectable Athenian wife ran the household, raised the children, and above all spun and wove the family's cloth, the endless skilled work that clothed everyone. She rarely went out except for religious festivals, and a man who talked much about his wife in public was thought slightly strange. Half the people who made Athens work spent their days in rooms most of us, walking its streets, would never have been allowed to enter. Through all of this runs something a modern visitor would find inescapable: the gods. There are no atheists on Theron's street. A small shrine guards his doorway. He tips a splash of wine to the gods before he drinks. A sneeze or a bird overhead can be an omen worth changing his plans for. And a few times a year, the whole city stops for a festival. The greatest is the theater. Not entertainment as we mean it, but a sacred event in honor of the god Dionysus, where some 15,000 citizens sit shoulder to shoulder from dawn, watching plays that still gut audiences today. Tragedy and comedy were both born in that open-air bowl of stone. As the sun goes down, Theron's day turns at last to pleasure. If he's lucky, he's invited to a symposium, a drinking party. A group of men recline on couches around the edges of the andron, the men's dining room, and drink late into the night. But never neat. To drink wine unmixed was what barbarians did, so it's blended with water in a great bowl called a crater. There's music, poetry, riddles, and a messy game of flicking the last drops of wine at a target. And there's talk, the kind of talk loosened by wine that produced some of the ideas the West has been chewing over for 2,500 years. And here's the strange part. Strip away the Pnyx and the gods and the enslaved people in the corner, and a shocking amount of Theron's day is yours. You argue with strangers about politics. He did that in the agora. You just do it on a glowing screen. You go to the gym to sculpt a body no farmer would need. You stay up too late at dinner, talking too much, drinking a little more than you meant to. You binge stories that make you cry. And when you vote, when you serve on a jury, when you demand a say in how you are governed, you are running software that ordinary men like Theron wrote by hand 24 centuries ago. Theron would find our world unrecognizable. The machines, the medicine, the sheer number of us. But sit him down in a modern argument about justice or freedom or what makes a good life, and he would know exactly what we were doing because his ordinary day is where we learned to do it. He never knew he was building anything. He was just getting through a single day, voting, working, exercising, drinking, praying, arguing in the dust of the agora. 24 centuries later, the temples have crumbled and his name is long forgotten. But you are still standing in his marketplace. You just carry it in your pocket now,